Alden's not here, so Doreen, Darnell. I thought Doreen was here. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Good afternoon, I'm Doreen Darnell. I live in Spraydon now, but I used to be a resident of Addington. I moved to Addington after losing my central city flat. So I've been all over Christchurch in the recent years. And I'm speaking not personally, but for the people who are not going to come and present to you. I started life as a geographer in England, a geomorphologist particularly, and that linked with human geography. Geography is a subject like that, it's everything. So I related to the gentleman from the university who warned you about flooding and water levels going down or up or whatever. I'm so old that I actually know about some of the results in the past. I remember when I was learning geography, I was told that the central part of America would be a desert in 50 years. That was well over 50 years ago, and it isn't. They got that wrong. Another thing that the geographers got wrong, social geographers, very illuminating for me, was a vision of big blocks of flats in central London being blown up because they didn't work socially. They became dens of iniquity and crime, and children could not be supervised in the playgrounds that were sort of meters below, and parents couldn't look at them. I've given you this front page of the Addington Times, which I actually produced, but I didn't have enough time to give you a whole copy. You've just got the front page. And that's an example in Christchurch of a decision that's gone horribly wrong for us in Addington. It was a decision to close access along Lincoln Road into Hagley Avenue. And I haven't written a follow-up yet, but the follow-up will say things like the traffic problems are so terrible and the lack of signals and crossings and so forth are so bad that you stand there any afternoon and there'll be a guaranteed accident every hour, half hour. Somebody saw 3 accidents in half an hour at the crossing road where there are no lights. And it's all because the traffic has been diverted because there's no access straight up the road. And if you look at the third paragraph, I'm looking at the people who will not be here, who will not be giving their views, but who I hope to suggest are many and varied in the background there. They're suffering from ill health. They couldn't get here because they're on walkers. They can't walk very far. They have to be driven, and they don't have cars. Somebody has to drive them. Some volunteer has to drive them. Some examples from Addington of the people who are really suffering because of what's happened. Businesses are going bust. I know of 3 in the last year who've gone bust. The people in the magazine shop who came from Central City, where they had a shop there that was doing very well, they were pursued by the people who were the landlords, who still wanted rent for a business that wasn't there. Then they were pursued by the landowners in Addington, who wanted to put the rent up 3 or 4 times in a year, and now they've gone home. They've taken their business home with them. They hope it will still run, but they were living on their old age pension. They were making absolutely nothing from it. Because the last council, not you, thankfully, allowed so many bars to open in Lincoln Road and didn't insist that they had parking. The magazine shop, who used to be in a little sort of area that had parking around it, found that all the people going to the bars would park in their parks, which they were paying for, and leave their cars sometimes all night. There's one person I'd like to tell you about who is an ordinary middle class, not a poor person, middle class person who has contributed all his life. He's lived in Christchurch a long time. His wife died not long after the earthquake. His beautiful house was compromised. I don't know to what extent, but he was living in it for 3 years. Suddenly the powers that be got round to deciding that they would fix it. They got to the point of knocking everything down except the framework. And there it stands in Spraydon, just a framework. You can see the outline of the house, but there is no house. They've come across a problem. They didn't tell him about the problem for 3 months. He suddenly found out, by which time insurance for his rental property has gone. He has no money left. He's using his savings. And he is one of those people who is going to be hit if Christchurch has to put the rent rates up and make people, the ordinary people of Christchurch, pay. And he's been saying, I hope I don't last that long. He's about 85 now. So I'm asking you, why are you making these decisions? Think very carefully who you're making them for. And how are you going to rank the responses? There's something about how the responses were ranked in this little episode, and I think it was really badly done. I've also got a background in research, and I've spent half my teaching life teaching people how to go about doing research and how to make sense of it. For my sins, I taught Jerry Brownlee when he was at the Teachers' College.
It's all your fault.
He didn't do any research. Okay, so I think you're doing this for the citizens of Christchurch. He tangata, he tangata, he tangata. And who do you consider to be the citizens of Christchurch? It's not the government. The government has an agenda. It's not the property developers. They are trying to make money out of this blank canvas that somebody has created. It's not the rebuild incomers. I moved from Addington. I was very happy there until next door a whole load of Irish labourers came and had continuous parties day and night when they weren't working. Not very pleasant. It's not the consultants. The consultants are in it for the business of making a name for themselves and obviously getting a lot of money because you get paid highly as a consultant. It's not big business from overseas. And another thing, it is not the university lecturers who come along and tell you that this doom and gloom is about to befall. They're also into making a professional name. And I know from my own experience that if they can manage to grab a headline, and it can be relayed on the news that you've done this research, even if the headline is misleading, then that puts your status up a bit.
Doreen, I really am reluctant to interrupt, but we're well over the 5 minutes. And
really?
I had allowed that because we didn't have our next submitter here, but our next submitter has arrived. So,
right.
Is there something that you'd just like to
final
message?
I would like you to help people recover from the earthquake and start at the bottom and go up, not start at the top and go down. I would like you to make this a viable city to live in, and don't think of bread and circuses all the time. In the short term, don't aim to make this a city with world-class set of buildings. That so-called convention centre looks to me worse than anything I've seen in Las Vegas. Don't enhance politicians' prestige, don't make developers rich, and don't make land or property rental owners rich either. Short-term gain is not necessarily long-term gain, and I think charging exorbitant sums from the ordinary bottom layer of Christchurch is going to cause a lot of misery.
Thank you very much for your submission. It's very much appreciated. Could I invite Kathy? Is it Kathy Alden?